the #1 Costa Rica real estate and investment podcast, bringing you experts from all over Costa Rica.
Good afternoon, guys, and welcome to episode 105 of Costa Rica Real Estate and Investments with me, your host, Richard Bexon. I apologize for the gap here. I think our last podcast was on August 5th. I had quite a few people reach out and be like, Rich, when's the next podcast coming? So I thought I'd actually do one on my own here, just so I could get one out. But really talking about buying and developing land here. A lot of people are looking to build homes here. Are looking to buy land and actually build homes. So I just kind of wanted to go over briefly what the things that you need to be aware of when buying land here. Just because, again, it's I would say it can be complicated if it's outside of a development. And sometimes even if it's in a development, there are questions that you need to ask and due diligence that needs to be done as well. I mean, we spend quite a bit of time just for clients doing due diligence on property when they actually buy it as well, just to make sure that, everything is correct. I know of people that have bought land, went and done a soil study after they've bought their land and realized that they had to put $50,000 into their foundations. Because again, one of the things to do during due diligence is do a soil study. So you have to figure out how deep to go with your foundations and how much that could, incur you or not incur you. Sometimes it doesn't incur anything. It's just into the regular price of building. Sometimes, it can cost a lot of money because you need to go down, and compact it and put layers of stone and rock, etc. But anyway, so I think the first thing really when talking about buying land is understanding really clearly what it is that you want to do with it. Do you want to put a home on it? Do you want a home and, maybe a rental, like a small, casita, guest house? Are you looking to do something commercial like a restaurant? Are you looking to develop something? Are you looking to take a larger piece of land and subdivide it? And that's a whole other kettle of fish, subdividing land. And then also, do you want to put a hotel, kind of resort on it as well? We're working with quite a few clients at the moment that are looking to do hotels and resorts. If that's the case, there are particular bits of land that you need to look for, just so you just don't waste, time chasing your tail, looking at an agricultural lot that, you can't build a hotel on because, it can't have commercial purposes. But so, typically a lot of the stuff that people are looking at, if it's in a gated community, you'll probably find it's a residential lot or a commercial lot. In that case, you're building a home, a residential lot or a condominium lot, not commercial. You're building a home. So that's already going to come with restrictions. These CC&Rs that usually these developments have dictate what can be built, its design, its color, its roof, how high you can go, etc. So it's important that you understand that when buying in a development, the restrictions and also the look and feel. You can't just buy, build whatever it is that you want. Also, something that just recently, someone asked me was about blocking somebody else's view. If you're the first one to build and then someone comes in front of you, they can't block your view. They can cover the view slightly. Typically, it's around about 15% of the kind of the ocean. Sometimes a finger, two, maybe, but they can't just come in and build something right in front of you. I've seen places before that had to have their roof lowered because they covered, the view of somebody else beforehand. So again, if you're building a property or looking to build a property where a development is already behind, just bear that in mind as well, just because you don't want the expense of having to lower your roof a little later on when developing. But anyway, so if you're building in a development, or buying a development, usually it's going to come with everything you need from water letters. It's uso de suelo, which is use of the property. That's something really important to take a look at, is its uso de suelo, which is kind of like its zoning. Typically in residential condominiums, it'll be there, but also it'll also dictate what percentage that you can build on the land as well. There are some developments where, you can only build up to a certain percent on the land. There are certain developments where you can just, have a meter each side, 2 meters at the front, 3 meters at the back, and you can build on the rest of it if you want to. So important that you clearly understand that when actually buying as well. But once you start getting out of, those developments, you start to move into, I'd say, just normal bits of land, which, a lot of the stuff which you'll see is if anything is more than 5,000 square meters, which is usually about 1.2 acres. If anything's larger than that, you're typically going to find it's going to be an agricultural parcel, which they call here as an agrícola. Which, but many years back, what they did was that they allowed people to subdivide land to 5,000 square meters so that people could basically build a home on it, and then they could grow agricultural crops on it to that size. So anything over 5,000 square meters is going to be an agricultural lot. Okay, and there is a restriction. Typically, you'll find it's not a public road, it's an easement. How do you find that? Basically, ask for the plano. That's the plan of the lot, and you'll see the road going up to it or the road that touches it, and you'll probably see it's called a serviumbre, which is basically a service like easement through it. So once it has a service easement or it touches that, it's 100%, it's an agricultural lot. If it touches public road, then that's something completely different. It can have commercial or residential use if it touches public road and can be subdivided, but I'll not get into too much the particulars, of subdividing land at this particular moment. But going back to agricultural lots, again, if it's usually, sometimes it can be an agricultural lot inside a residential community as well, which you can see that in some of the developments up there in Guanacaste, all over the country, like Black Stallion is one. I know Ladera del Mar has some stuff like that as well. Typically on an agricultural lot, you can only build a 300 square meter home, which is about 3,200 square feet, okay? So you can't build anything larger than that, unfortunately. It won't get approved. So you're restricted on how much you can build. And some of you may go, well, I don't want to build a 3,200 square foot home. I just want a 2,500 square foot home. But then you also need to bear in mind is your outside paved areas, your pool is counted as well. I mean, anything that covers the ground, is usually, is covered in that 3,200 square feet. Okay. Also, you're allowed to build a storage I would say a storage building, which sometimes, a lot of the time people are building guest houses or casitas as their storage building. And you can also build a guard house as well. And that guard house, again, is then typically another guest house or another, small building on it. So, you could build a home and have two small rental units on, which when you're filing them, just be aware that they're going to be filed as like storage and also a guard house. It's not out of the ordinary, and then you can actually kind of rent those two things as well. So, there is some restrictions there, but I think if you're looking to do something a little bit more commercial with multiple rental units on, an agricultural parcel probably is not right for you. It can be done, guys. We've done some developments before where, there were individual, casitas, like small guest houses that were connected by a roof, because as soon as they're connected by a roof, it's one unit. So there are, as with most things here in Costa Rica, and I would say around the world, there are, ways to look at things and ways to do things. You just need to be able to speak to someone that really knows what it is that they're doing. Just because I've heard people tell people that like, nah, you can build, up to, 25% or 15% on that land. Now, prior to, 2019, yes, you could have done that. But fortunately, the law changed on those agricultural parcels. After then allowing, basically only up to the 3,200 square feet, just because people were abusing it and building, massive homes on these agricultural parcels, and that's not what it was originally designed for. So that they changed the rules on that. So just a reminder, if it's over 1.2 acres, does not touch public road, and on the plan has an easement, it's going to be an agricultural parcel with those restrictions. Okay. Sometimes you may find that the lot may be 15,000 square meters or maybe 5 acres, but doesn't touch public road and has an easement to it. Theoretically, you could then break that up into 1.2 acre lots with easements to it as well. You just need to be aware of the availability of the water, because remember, if you don't have water availability in Costa Rica, guys, for anyone that's listening to this podcast, you don't get a building permit. So a water letter, or you can look to build a well and get a concession on it. And that's another kettle of fish, as we've covered in other podcasts. And there are some municipalities that will allow you to build where a concession is in progress, because it can take up to 2 years, sometimes to get a concession approved. So, as I mentioned, moving on to another type of, property, if it touches public road, guys, typically you can build up to 50% residential or 75% as commercial. But, different areas have a different, what they call plan regulador, which is like a zoning area. So you just need to bear that in mind. And that's where going back, the uso de suelo is so important, because it really defines what you can do with a property and what you can't. So, for instance, in a place like Playa Grande, when you get the uso de suelo from the local municipality, over there in Santa Cruz, it says that there are no, it follows basically the national regulation plan or the national zoning, which, typically is 50% or 75% there. And if you wanted to, then you can move it to commercial. You can go to the local municipality and request that the zoning be also commercial, but also your taxes, your municipality taxes will also go up as well. I'm not 100% sure what they are, so I'm not going to say, but typically your property tax is 0.25%. Once you move to commercial, of course, you pay more property tax on that. And public road, typically you're going to be looking at sizes, anywhere from, I'd say from 150 square meters, which is absolutely tiny. I can't even put that in acreage, all the way up. I mean, it can get bigger from there. Typically what you have to have is 1 meter of road frontage for 7 meters back. So if you have 10 meters of road frontage, you have 70 meters back. So that would be a 700 square meter lot. So typically you don't want a lot that's like 1 meter wide and 7 meter back because you can't do anything with it. So typically people are looking at a width of around 8 meters minimum, which means that then they have to go 56 meters back. Because remember, for every 1 meter of road frontage, you go 7 meters back. And on that, basically, you're not that restricted on what it is that you can build on it. You're restricted on the amount that you can build on it, but typically when it touches public road, it's kind of free game on that. And it can be subdivided as well. But I just wanted to give you guys just kind of an idea of kind of things to bear in mind, just because you're going to find is that a lot of stuff is agricultural parcels here in Costa Rica, which is normal. And don't be afraid to buy an agricultural parcel. It gives you a large piece of land, 1.2 acres, and sometimes people are like, no, I want more than that. And I'm like, just bear in mind, you're going to have to maintain that as well. Because as I say, Costa Rica is plants, everything grows here really quickly and all year round. And if you're anywhere near the jungle wants that back. So the maintenance, and the gardening that needs to be done sometimes can be a lot of work. So just bear that in mind. But anyway, I just want to give you an idea there. I think we went a little bit further into agricultural parcels there, just because that's where the majority of stuff is. If it is in a gated community, again, you'll typically find that it's very easy to define, what you can do with it and what you can't, but you can just ask for the reglamento, which is the regulations of what you can do and what you can't do. Unfortunately, usually they're pages and pages long, but it's important that you read them or have, someone like ourselves or a lawyer take a read of them for you, and just to give you a summary of what it is that you can do and also what it is that you can't do. But anyway, guys, I hope this has been helpful for you, kind of about buying land and zoning here in Costa Rica. There's a lot more that it goes into this, of course. I was actually speaking to a guy the other day who does this up in Canada, and he's like, people just come and basically hire me to help them really define, what they can do with something and what they can't. And a lot of the time, that's what they do with us as well. A lot of people talk to us about what they can do with land and what they can't, and kind of just guide them through it, finding the land or helping them through the due diligence, or then project managing whatever they're doing afterwards on that as well. Just because, again, we speed everything up for them. But if you want to get in contact with us, you can. info@investingcostarica.com, info@investingcostarica.com. I apologize that this podcast was just me talking, guys, but I hope it's been useful. If you have any questions, get in contact with us, or want any help with anything or any guidance. As I say, I've got 15 minutes for anyone. I love talking to people, so feel free to just reach out to us. Again, info@investingcostarica.com. Until the next podcast, guys, I promise the next one won't be me talking, but we'll be with somebody else that's probably a little bit more dynamic than me. But till the next one, thanks very much for listening.
The #1 Costa Rica real estate and investment podcast, bringing you experts from all over Costa Rica.